What
All
is up,
right.
everybody? Welcome to another edition of Show Me Yo Stack. I'm here with Adam Chin. He is CRO at FinnStrat Management. Welcome to the show today.
No, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Dude, I'm excited. This is one of my favorite things. I just love talking tools with people, especially with practitioners that are relying on them to not lose their jobs, like to do their jobs. So, question, just a bit about you. What are you doing these days? What are you thinking about doing? What are you trying to solve? And what you
Yeah,
currently do?
so a little bit about FinnStrat Management. We are a fractional accounting and finance firm, but what makes us different is we focus exclusively on early stage companies, somewhere from a pre-seed to a Series B. But ultimately, we try to deliver outcomes. And I would say if I put those outcomes in two camps, we try to help early stage founders reach product market fit so that they can scale, or we try to make them investor ready so that they can raise their next round. And I am CRO at the firm. My main focus is driving business, but identifying really cool founders that we think we can surround with a sphere of support.
I love it. I met Adam through being a prospect. I'm not yet a customer, but maybe I will be. So I say this I've enjoyed going through the sales process with y'all. I think it's a really hot offer, and people should consider it. I looked at like 5 different ones, and they ended up being top. Okay, let's go through tools. So we're here to talk about the tool stacks you love. We're going to do it in opposite order. We're going to start at number 5, go down to 1, and then we'll talk about some emerging tools you like. So let's start there.
I love
What
it.
is tool number 5 for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna put number 5 at the at Gemini. I debated this a little bit. We use a couple different LLMs internally, a bunch of different testing. I would say. I think it's a tough decision between Claude and Gemini, but Gemini wins out. We've done quite a bit with it.
So tell me why, because I have this, and people often start with the element number 5. Don't know why, but they do. I had people giving me Grok. I've had people give me Perplexity. I didn't expect those. You're the first person doing Gemini. I personally just switched from Open ChatGPT to Claude.
Mhm.
Why are you still Gemini man?
Yeah, I was. I think it's changed. Obviously, I think a lot of people started out with ChatGPT just from the name recognition. Played around with Claude quite a bit. I think certainly it has its strengths and certainly some strengths over Gemini. My background coming into the CRO role, I would say, is more from the marketing track, right? And I think CRMs, you can come up through multiple verticals, I think, to get to that seat. To be perfectly honest, I'm a little bit biased, but Nano Banana is incredible from image
Yep.
generation. But I would also say with their latest release, their deep thinking, it's just proven really well at doing some general market research, due diligence for me. We're also, a shop that uses other Google tools. So just the integrations with some of the other, desktop, like Docs and Excel, Excel, like Sheets and things of that sort. It just works in our traditional workflows. But I will say we use Claude quite a bit too.
Yeah, if I give 2 things, is Gemini. I think it's a big. We haven't talked about it much. I don't think they were talking about it much. But whoever owns the browser, I think is going to be a big winner.
Mm.
And Chrome and Gemini own the browser wars. And then number 2 is if you have never heard of Nano Banana, that is the best image generation tool in the market as a specialization, and you should now you know about it. What's tool number 4 for you?
Tool number 4, I'm going to go with Gamma. So again, with my marketing background, and we do a lot of different marketing presentations, webinars, sales presentations, especially for bespoke for certain prospects and whatnot. It's proven a great presentation tool. I think it also, there are definitely workflows that I'll still take some of the information out of Gamma, be able to present some of that stuff. I've also played around with, Canva presentations. We still use Google, we still use PowerPoint, but just from a way to insert some of that research from Gemini into Gamma to get it condensed down into the right kind of structure for a presentation, it excels at that, and it kind of speeds up my process quite a bit.
You're the second person this week that has told me I must use Gamma for PowerPoints. I have not yet made the switch. I was using Claude to make all my presentations. So,
Yeah.
tool number 3.
Number three, Zapier, actually. And I think I'll give some insight into how I think about systems architecture perhaps later in the show. But the reason Zapier is so important for me is right. I lead the marketing, sales, and customer success teams here. Um, it enables non-technical users to bring some of these integration solutions to market much quicker for me, so we can iterate much quicker. So really, I see Zapier as an enablement tool, knowing full well we have our engineering team that does specific bespoke API integrations. Zapier just speeds up things to market for us.
What's a specific use case for Zapier? Is like, okay, this is why it's because you just put it above Gemini, above Gamma.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're doing some daily stuff. Like there's some daily things you rely on for Zapier.
We are. We are. We just launched, and I'm probably being conservative here, 90% time saving. So we, this is a little bit of a tease into some other tools that we're using in the future ranks. But one of the big things FinnStrat does is we have a podcast called the Innovators and Investors Podcast. We record in Zoom, but we do some post-production work. And I've tried a bunch of different, post-production tools, right? And we use a combination of different things to get to our end assets. Zapier's allowed us to integrate, our HubSpot instance with WordPress, with some of these other tools that do some of the content generation. And it's enabled my team to do that without engineering support. So we've removed an internal bottleneck, which I think a lot of companies probably face, right? You don't want to, you send things into IT, it's got to go into a backlog and then get prioritized. And then the business users are sometimes kind of left wondering. So this really just gives us the power directly.
I am very intrigued to ask more questions. I'm going to hold them for the emerging tools to watch, as you may be on a podcast and I have post production stuff I'm doing. What's tools number two?
Tool number two is Apollo. I am still using Apollo for Outbound. We do, the reasons I would tell you, I've experimented with another number of these other, AI native new outbound tools. I still take with all of these tool sets, I still take an experimental approach. I don't try to put all my eggs in one basket, but Apollo still wins because it is an all-in-one solution. They might be a little bit slower, I would say, to adopt some of the emerging AI trends in outbound. But the reality is they have the backing. They're the incumbent. My belief is that they'll get there, and they have released quite a few new AI native tools that have really sped up our process. And the fact that we can do everything all in one instead of integrating all these point solutions together, matters. I would also kind of give an outline. Our business is very relationship focused. We're B2B, relationship sales. And the specificity you need. There still is a lot of human in the loop stuff that we're doing in our communications. We want to automate top of funnel, but we have to very quickly get it over to one-on-one. And I'm perhaps I advise on some of our direct to consumer founders, like when the addressable market is so large, you can use some of these other tools, experiment a bit more, and let the AI learn. But when we have a very focused target ICP, I just don't think these complete automated tools are there yet. I don't trust it. Our brand reputation very much matters. So I want to make sure that we still have that human in the loop, and Apollo just enables us to continue to do that.
You're telling me you don't send 10,000 emails a day?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm interested just on this one, as when you say all in one, what is the all in one solution you're trying, or you take your ideal, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, and Apollo lets me accomplish that all in one. What does that look for you?
Yeah, I'll just kind of some of the functions and features that we use. So there are automated list generation tools and workflows that we can build in there. So that's one from a top of funnel prospecting. I would also say we use the conversation recorders. I know there's a ton of meeting recorders that are sitting out there, but this is now natively in the sales tool that I have my salespeople live in every day, which helps.
So Apollo has a note taker now.
It does. It does. It natively integrates with HubSpot and pushes all those notes directly to the deal notes in HubSpot, which just creates a very easy process for us to kind of handle our lead flow. But we're also using a lot of the other native AI tools. So we, just like many of these other automated tools, you plug in your ICP, who you're trying to reach, some of the language, the pain points, all that training knowledge. So it is helping us to identify, and quickly send individual one-on-one customized outbound emails. I still like to review some of those before we send them out. But we
Mm.
also have an SDR agent running, and this is a teaser for number one, coming from HubSpot into Apollo lists so that we can do additional prospecting based on other signals and scoring that we're doing.
So let's go to number one. What's the number one tool for your stack?
Number one is HubSpot. I have to
Whoa.
say it's
Okay.
still HubSpot. And the reasons are, and let me back up a little bit with CRM. I've worked with CRMs throughout my career, and I would say 90% of the instances are using 10% of the functionality, even before the adoption of AI. So there is so much value that people have in some of these tools sitting at their fingertips that they're not using. And I think that's the key. And how can AI maybe enable adoption of some of these other tools? But HubSpot, similarly as Apollo, they're the big incumbent. They will, to think that they're resting on their laurels, right? I think is ignorant. HubSpot has a huge venture program that backs other and this is the world that we live in, but backs other startups, right, that are innovating on their platform. So they are innovating, right, and they're going to incorporate all that stuff into the product. And as far as adoption goes, having these all-in-one solutions, it makes training that much easier. The reality is we're in a divergent part of the market right now where you have all, the barrier of entry to build this stuff is so low. But the reality is, and we've seen this in past kind of technology cycles, call it MarTech. That's my background, right? There used to be these big charts, right? There's 7,000 MarTech tools, 8,000 MarTech tools. I don't know if you remember those.
Yep.
Um,
Scott used to make those from that
yeah.
ended up working at HubSpot.
Yeah. So, but then it converged, right? And we're still in the divergent part of, I think, the AI boom. But, who's going to win out when we hit the convergent part of the cycle? It's going to be these big incumbents with all the resources that are going to pull up all the best in class, right? So,
Yep. I don't disagree. So it's just like I like that. You made a tidbit about my tool two, which is Apollo, and my tool one work, and you made a hint at I'm using a SDR AI agent inside HubSpot to help me execute outbound in my Apollo generated list. Talk to me more about how that works together.
yeah, we've got all the classic, website trackers, right? So we can see the companies that visit the website. We've built our own custom scoring models. We have the SDR agent, basically prospecting for us natively in HubSpot. HubSpot's released a number of different agents over the course of the past year. And most recently, they've allowed us to then use agents in workflow builders. So it's enabling us to really customize, but still understand the step-by-step actions. And I think for me, as I build right now, and as I train other people how to do it, I think the blind faith in these tools that do it all for you, especially for maybe new people in the market, they're not understanding the actual step-by-step process. And I'm a big believer in business process. So being able to do some of this stuff individually and understand every kind of gate that it goes through allows us to really have a continuing improvement cycle and understand where things are not working or could be improved upon. And that's really the methodology we do. But basically, we're doing the scoring, we're pushing that to a list. We're then doing some outbound and communications out in Apollo before we then push it back to automatic deal creation in HubSpot.
I like this. Now we go to there's our top five, and to repeat them, we got making sure I got this right. Gemini, Gamma was number three.
Zapier.
Zapier, Apollo, HubSpot.
That's it. That's it. It might seem a little legacy, and I know maybe some of your listeners are on the forefront of things. I will share that we do adopt this kind of 20% time methodology going back to the Google days. So I do always encourage my team to try out new tools, but I would say the quality bar it must hit to integrate it into daily operations is still pretty high. So I'm taking a optimistic yet skeptical lens on some of these new tools.
It's interesting is you say that's a legacy. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, what you just said would be like at the top end of maybe crazy.
Yeah.
I actually hear I hear a lot of people starting to standardize in HubSpot in ways that was not true in the past. So I don't think it's crazy. Let's go to the emerging tools to watch.
Yeah.
What are things like? Okay, they didn't make the top five, but I'm starting to use them. I see a lot. They might make the top five. Say I talk to you in a year from now.
Yeah. I gotta do a little plug here, but the emerging tool I'm looking for is right here.
I didn't know this was going to happen, so I just want to say everybody that.
But
Okay.
let me explain a little bit, and maybe this will kind of tie in some of my previous comments. Um, I mentioned I kind of came up through the marketing track, I guess, to get to CRO. But there was a point in my career where I was a CIO. So I have this very technical kind of overlay to things. And I look at, building systems architectures and rolling out change, right? And ultimately, that's what we're doing with these new tools is we're driving change within organizations. That is changing people's day to day. It's changing the business process. And I think what we're seeing in the market right now is the capabilities of AI is far exceeding the ability of humans to comprehend and adopt these tools. So I think the biggest gate to innovation, if you will, because it's about how do we leverage all this new capability, it's still a human gate that we have to get through. So change management is key. Training is key. Getting people to understand how and why is key. So, we can innovate all day long. We can have the best tools at our disposal. If people aren't using it, it's worthless to the business. So I think training tools and those types of things are going to be the next, I think, focus that we as a firm, but also I think the industry at large is going to have to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. I like that you said super. But I think to go deeper in that problem set, because that's the problems I'm thinking about a lot. Uh, is we have trained in the past teaching people inputs. So like here's a piece of document for you to consume, um, which and that AI is better at consuming documents than we are. So I think as like how do you actually know if behavior is happening? Is you must judge it in an output based, and so super as a training tool. I think I think we're kind of the first. We will not be the last. Will be how do we judge people's behaviors as outcomes that something's happening? And I think that's just like when you think about training, it's more spell check. Like
Mm,
here's what it should look like. Here's my dictionary. Are
mm.
you doing it right? And you learn as you get it wrong, versus learn, get it wrong, try to get it right again, and then forget the document existed, or even search it. Like it just doesn't matter as much. Knowing better is not doing better,
Yes.
says my mom. Ask my mom.
Hey, it's all about that behavior change, right? Outputs. I 100% agree. There's so much investment going into AI, and I've read some articles recently that is enterprise seeing the ROI from all this investment? I think the jury's still out so far, but it's going to take these types of tools to get to prove it for sure.
So is there anything you think was just a wish list? Is there anything, man? I wish there was a tool that solved this specific problem. You're a CRO of a company. Everybody listening to this could solve this problem. Whatever Adam's about to say. Take out your notes.
Yeah. I think it's pretty easy. We integrate go to market, and again, I'm putting my marketing hat on a little bit here from my background. But we measure things and advise people to measure things like lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, and that's great as big aggregate numbers and outcomes, as you mentioned, right? Um, but how do I actually develop a continuous improvement process? We need all the leading indicators. So what I would love to see is a tool that makes it much easier to do real granular marketing attribution. So I can understand where to pull what levers, where to increase some focus, where to decrease some focus, and do that in a much faster, easier way. Um, I've worked in a number of different places, and that's always been a goal. And we've gotten somewhere down the path, but we've never truly gotten to a perfect solution. So if there's something out there or people working on that, I would love to talk.
One day we will be able to track nonlinear dark funnel activities. One of our number one goals at Super is. Did you know what my number one goal at Super is for marketing?
I do not.
Take a crazy guess.
I don't know how to train everyone to be a marketer in the company.
Number of individuals wearing our T-shirts.
Hey,
I know. So that's actually how do you attribute that? I have no clue, but we got one done, Adam. Really appreciate you accidentally doing that, which was great. Okay, I'm going to recap just what I've learned from today. I think what would be helpful here is a recap of the full stack. I'm gonna get right this time. So at number 5 we got Gemini. At number 4 we have Gamma. At number 3 we have Zapier. At number 2 is Apollo. At number 1 is HubSpot. Two takeaways I have um, is your belief, and I think this is helpful, is we're currently in a place where we're going to have great dysphoria, if you would. There's going to be a lot of AI tools in there, and we're currently in that era. there will be a agglomeration again, event where we'll bring them down and concentrated. So you're saying, hey, I see this, I've seen it before, and I'm going to go with the best in class that I think are best going to pivot and adopt this. Things like Apollo, things like HubSpot, and I'm not going to ignore things like Gemini or Gamma that actually give me dividends today. So I like how you're thinking about it. It's very helpful. Adam, what is one thing you didn't get to talk about today that you want to share for other people in your seat thinking about their tool stack today?
Yeah, I piggyback on what you just said. Value today versus value tomorrow. We absolutely have to balance those two things. But the biggest problem here is resource constraints. And to kind of tie this in a nice bow, I think thinking about the switching costs and the tax you put on humans to constantly change new processes and new systems. At some point you really need to hit the J curve and scale, which means you need to have a stable foundation. So I guess ultimately it's don't always chase the shiny object. Put on your critical thinking hat and think, 6, 12, 18 months from now.
Eventually, ladies and gentlemen, we must J curve. It was a really good last statement. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate you being here today. Thank you. If people want to talk to you after today, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, you can check out what we're doing at FinnStratMGMT.com, or you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Everybody, stay awesome. Keep doing it big and never, ever, ever stop believing. Adios, everybody.